All right, the stage is set for March 2026. The talk is done. It's time for the ultimate AI showdown. We've got three titans, and each one thinks they're the best in the business. So today, we're going to put them to the test, run them through the gauntlet, and find out who really reigns supreme.
So, who are our contenders? In one corner, we have OpenAI's GPT 5.3. In another, Google's Gemini 3.1 Pro. And rounding out the trio, Anthropic's Claude 4.6 Opus. Yep, three titans, but only one crown. We're going head-to-head to find the undisputed champion. And look, forget all the marketing hype. We're diving deep, getting real, and by the time we're done here, you'll know exactly which one of these powerhouses you should be using.
So here's how we're going to break it all down today. First, we'll meet the contenders in the arena. Then we'll look at the tail of the tape, the core specs. After that, it's the benchmark gauntlet, followed by the battle for your wallet. Then we'll see them in some real-world sparring. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the judge's final scorecard. Let's do this.
All right, let's get to know our heavyweights. First up, in the red corner, the reigning champ, the one you all know, GPT 5.3 from OpenAI. In the blue corner, the versatile challenger looking to shake things up, Google's Gemini 3.1 Pro. And in the green corner, the precision specialist, the engineer's choice, Claude 4.6 Opus from Anthropic. Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's see how these giants stack up on paper. It's time for the tail of the tape. We're talking raw power, the core specs that set the foundation for everything else.
Okay, let's look at the stats. Right off the bat, you can see GPT 5.3 and Gemini 3.1 Pro are just massive. We're talking 1.8 trillion, even 2 trillion parameters. Huge models. But, that's not the whole story. The really interesting number here? It's the context window. And wow, one of these models is playing a completely different game.
Get this, 2 million tokens. That is Gemini 3.1 Pro's context window. It is by far the biggest in the industry. I mean, it's not even close. So what does that actually mean for you? Well, it means you can literally feed it an entire book or a huge complex code base. You could even give it a 4-hour video and say, tell me what's in this. And it can process all of that in one go. For really deep, complex work, that's an absolute game changer. Okay, ding, ding, ding. Round 1 is here, the benchmark gauntlet. This is where we get serious and see how these guys perform on the tough, standardized tests. The academic and technical stuff. There's no hiding here. The numbers are going to tell the story. So looking at these results, wow, the competition is just incredibly close. There is no one-size-fits-all winner here. It looks like Claude 4.6 is the king of coding, accuracy, and what we call agentic tasks. Basically, its ability to handle complex problems on its own. Then you've got Gemini, which is crushing it in general knowledge and multilingual capabilities. And of course, GPT 5.3 is just a beast when it comes to math and really deep reasoning. Let's zoom in on a couple of these because this is fascinating. First up, coding. And honestly, it's not even a fair fight. Look at that score. Claude 4.6 hits an insane 94.3% on Human Eval Plus, which is all about writing correct working code right out of the box. If you're a developer, just think about that. That means way less time banging your head against the wall debugging and a lot more time actually creating something new. But then we pivot to reasoning, pure, heavy-duty, grad school-level thinking. And here, GPT 5.3 is the undisputed king. It scores a 71.4% on the GPQA Diamond benchmark, which is famous for being incredibly difficult. This shows it can really grapple with those super tough intellectual challenges that just stump the other models. And then there's this. If you work with multiple languages at all, you need to pay attention. Gemini 3.1 scores a jaw-dropping 94.7% on the multilingual benchmark. That's not just a win, that's total domination. For any kind of global work, this is your champion, period. Okay, those numbers are impressive for sure. But let's be real, performance is only half the equation. What about the cost? So for round 2, we're diving into the battle for your wallet. We're talking pricing, overall value, and who's actually making their power accessible. So let's break this down. The first thing that just jumps out at you is Gemini. They're giving away their most powerful model for free. The others, yeah, you get a free version, but it's a lighter, less capable one. Now, for the developers in the room, the real kicker is the API cost.
Look at these numbers. Gemini is just way, way cheaper to build applications with. We're talking $3.50 for input per million tokens. That's a massive difference compared to what OpenAI and Anthropic are charging. And if you're a power user, not a developer, the story is just as dramatic. If you want the best of the best, the top consumer plan, well, GPT 5.3's Pro Max is going to set you back $200 a month. And then there's Gemini 3.1 Ultra, which gives you its best model for just under $50. The price gap is just enormous. It makes Gemini's value proposition ridiculously compelling. Okay, benchmarks are one thing, price is another. But that's all on paper, right? So for round 3, it's time for some real-world sparring sessions. We're taking them out of the lab and into the wild to see how they handle the kind of stuff you and I actually do every day. So for our first test, we gave them a real challenge. Build a complete Next.js dashboard from scratch. We're talking authentication, a database, the whole shebang. And the results were pretty surprising. Claude 4.6 was the only one that gave us clean code that ran perfectly right on the first attempt, no errors. For a developer, that is just a massive win.
But hold on, it's not quite that simple. Yeah, Claude's code was clean, 100%, but GPT 5.3 actually came up with the best architecture, the smartest, most scalable design. And Gemini, well, Gemini was just blazingly fast. It finished the whole task in 28 seconds. So it really makes you think, what does best even mean here? Is it clean code, smart design, or raw speed? It kind of depends on what you need at that moment.
All right, for our next test, we went in a completely different direction. We asked each model to rate a 2,000-word technical article, but in Persian. And remember what we saw in the benchmarks? Well, this is where that multilingual power from Gemini just came roaring to life. It produced the most fluent, natural-sounding article, no problem. GPT 5.3 was maybe a little sharper on the technical details, but Claude really struggled here with both the language and just hitting the word count.
All right, the sparring is over. All the tests are done, and all the data is in. It is time to tally up the points and deliver the verdict. This is it, the judge's final scorecard.
So let's break it down one last time. First, you've got GPT 5.3, who we're calling the thinker. Absolutely brilliant at deep reasoning and math, but man, it's expensive, and that context window is small. Next up, Gemini 3.1. The polyglot. It crushes multilingual tasks, the price is amazing, and it has that insane 2 million token context window. The downside? Its coding can be a little hit or miss sometimes. And finally, Claude 4.6, the engineer. This is your go-to for rock-solid, accurate code with very few errors. But its API will cost you, and it's not the best choice for languages other than English. So, the million-dollar question is, which one should you use? Well, let's make this really simple. Look at this chart. If you're a developer, you probably want Claude. Its accuracy is going to save you so much time. Are you a student or a researcher? Gemini is a no-brainer. It's free, and you can throw massive research papers at it. A writer or content creator? GPT 5.3's creative spark is still probably the best out there. You see, it really all comes down to what you're trying to do. And now, the moment of truth. The final scores. We've weighed everything. Performance, price, how useful they are in the real world. We're ready to name a champion. So, first up, GPT 5.3, the thinker. Incredibly powerful, but that price tag hurts. It earns a very respectable 8.7 out of 10. Next up, Claude 4.6, the engineer. Its reliability is just off the charts, and for coding, it's the best in the business. For that, it scores an impressive 8.9 out of 10. That puts it just ahead of GPT 5.3. But is that enough to take the top spot? And that means, with a final score of 9.0 out of 10, our winner by the narrowest of margins, based on its incredible value, its versatility, and that gigantic context window, is Gemini 3.1, the polyglot. But listen, here's the real takeaway from all of this. Yes, Gemini won on our scorecard today. Its value and that massive context make it the best all-arounder right now. But is it the absolute winner for every single thing? No way. If you have a critical coding project, you're going to want Claude. If you're tackling a super deep research problem, GPT 5.3 is your expert. So you know who the real winner is here? It's you. It's us. Because in March of 2026, we have 3 distinct PhD-level AI assistants, all vying for our business. The smartest play isn't to pick a favorite, it's to learn how to use each of them for what they do best. It's all about using them strategically.